What's going on, Trophy Kids? We got an awesome one here for you. We are breaking down this week's college hoops games after going 8-3 last week in our bets. Not so good in our brackets, but we talk about all of that. We break down every game, give out a couple bets we're making early week. It's a good one. Let's go. Welcome to Trophy Kids, presented by Bad News Media. It is March 23rd. We are back for the Sweet 16 round podcast. I have Dante on the line here today. How are you doing? Good, sir.
I mean, as long as I don't look at my bracket, I'm fine.
Dude, it's been, from a bracket standpoint, an absolute nightmare. From a betting standpoint, the Trophy Kids podcast, not doing too shabby. I was 8-3 through the week, so pretty solid rate. I mean, the Virginia Tech one was a big misread on my part. And then some other ones like Michigan. I didn't give Michigan State out, did I? No, I live bet that, which wasn't great.
Yeah, you live bet that. That was in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great about that.
Yeah. I made a couple dollars this weekend on some gut bets.
I mean, it's the best. I was thinking there, random Nate thought. I was sitting there on Friday, a little hungover from St. Patty's Day and that Thursday of games, thinking like, man, this is peak human form right now. Like, this is the golden age. I'm sitting here on Friday doing work on my laptop, watching games with a corned beef sandwich. Like, I've peaked as a human. Like, this is like, thank God I wasn't born in the 1800s and I can watch this. Like, this is fantastic. It's the greatest week of the year.
I mean, you still could have had the corned beef, but no basketball.
Yeah, true. And manual labor. I'm sitting in my house on my computer, doing work, watching games in the middle of the day. It's perfect. Like, it's the goal. Like, we've made it to the golden age of human existence right now.
Before we jump into the Sweet 16, I want to make a disclaimer. Games that I called wrong that were like 2-point or 3-point games, those aren't wrong. Those are toss-ups.
No, that's fair.
I just want to put that out there. Games that I got completely wrong, like Kentucky.
Let's talk about them. That's a good place to start for this past week. Let's talk about Kentucky, which I did have a future on. I was very hot, as we all know. My national championship
you kind of
pick.
Convinced me. Remember, I was like, I'm not going to pick Kentucky because it was too sexy.
Who saw St. Peter? The school has a budget of $1.3 million. They couldn't even fly their cheerleaders out to the game. They've got, from what I heard, rumor is they have coaches that are volunteers on that staff for assistants because they can't afford to pay them. They have not a single ranked kid coming out of high school on that roster, and they beat Kentucky. Like, what are we doing here? I know this is the tournament and teams come out of nowhere, but this is why this tournament,
they beat Murray. They beat the whole state of Kentucky.
Correct. They own the state of Kentucky now. New Jersey City owns Kentucky. The North has won again, apparently. This is March Madness is so great because I can't think of another. Like, I was trying to think about it. What is another sports product that every single year delivers? Because March Madness delivers every single year, and this was one of many upsets. But the fact that this even happened is crazy.
That's why you're trying to recreate that with the expanding the college football playoffs, right? Is you're trying to create some sort of atmosphere like this. Have you a St. Peter's out there as a 8 seed or whatever we decide it's going to be. I think it'll be less in college because it'll still be probably a Power 5, or even if it is a Group of 6 school, it'll be a Group of 6 school that you know. You can't recreate what's happening with St. Peter's, and I don't think in any other sport.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. It's awesome. They hit the lottery, the NCAA basketball, when they created this tournament. It's fantastic. One of many upsets. I mean, my bracket is a disaster. Kentucky's a disaster, to say the least. I will say I got the pick wrong because I had the Zags losing this round. I had the pick right. The bet was perfect. But let's talk about Memphis real quick in the UConn game.
Yep.
Does that not sort of, one, I think, highlight exactly what we've been saying about this Gonzaga team and their potential flaws, but two, lay a blueprint for a lot of teams moving forward, a.k.a. Texas Tech or Duke, that comes out of here on how to beat this Gonzaga team? Because I put that bet out there. It was my biggest play of the week. It was a 4-unit play. I did the TikTok video, which, disclaimer, if I do a TikTok video for a bet, that's like my strongest bet of the week moving forward in all going forward in betting.
Follow us on TikTok.
Yeah, so follow us on TikTok here, at the Trophy Kid on TikTok as well there. But does that not lay the blueprint moving forward when you're playing the Zags? Because Memphis did exactly what we said they need to: play tough down low and put it on the guards.
I don't think if Gonzaga makes it to Texas to face Texas Tech, and if Texas Tech makes it, right? Or I'm sorry, Gonzaga will. No, because they're gonna play Arkansas, right? Yeah. I think Texas Tech that game may be a blowout.
I had them losing,
but
they
gotta get past Arkansas, which again might be a bad matchup for Gonzaga. Memphis really outplayed Gonzaga in a few things. They got in foul trouble is what happened to Memphis. Then they had I don't know what they were thinking with running players out there that was bad coaching.
Correct. That was.
That's what Penny, I don't know what Penny was thinking. That was bad coaching. For a little while they were beating Gonzaga down low, and then you could see the coaching adjustments made by Gonzaga to make sure that they were getting more points in the paint, but also rebounding better because Memphis was all over the glass.
All over them. And that was something we talked about. Big physical men down low. That was where they're going to have an issue. And that's kind of the recipe. And I want to get a little bit more into this game. So let's talk about this one. This will be the first game we kind of talk about here. Gonzaga versus Arkansas is the matchup for this round. Where do you see this sort of playing out? How do you see this game going? Because I look at it, I'm always kind of looking at it from a gambling perspective. The line is at 9.5, which is a big line. Zags are favored. Over under 55.5. Because I look at this game, and the Zags, outside of Timmy just going God mode on Memphis, that is a potentially losable game. Can Arkansas kind of create that recipe again and really turn it on the Zags here?
So Arkansas likes to get out and run. JD has scored more points in the tournament than I think anybody else has. So I think if Arkansas can get up early, build a lead of 10 or 8, they would be able to sustain that lead. Maybe get down to 6 or 4, but sustain that lead. I think if Arkansas decides to play a close game, or what happened to Memphis in that game, if Gonzaga makes Arkansas play their game, then I think it'll be another close game, but I think Gonzaga ultimately pulls it out. I think and so I'm not the betting person, so just so we know that, but I think a line of 9 is a lot for Gonzaga.
I would agree. I think it's a pretty big line for a team that has some holes, and the holes that we've highlighted perfectly. For example, Chet down low, great college player. But the thing we were saying is if you get physical, and he played great defense in that game, but when you get physical with him, it starts to fall apart.
You can push him around.
Push him around. And Timmy...
But then they changed the game up for him, right? Then they started having him step back and using the hook, right?
They did.
Some good coaching happened for Gonzaga.
Correct. And
yes.
that is fair. But that's the recipe, is you have to make them make those adjustments, and then it becomes a winnable game. For an Arkansas team, 9.5 feels big. It would be my lean. I'm not ready to make an official pick here. But when I look at this Arkansas team, I don't see the ability to do what Memphis did, what Texas Tech will be able to do. I think if they see the Zags, I think the Zags are going to win this game because, once again, this is a very good team. And I feel like it's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle of just trying to point out their flaws. At the end of the day, this Zags team is number 1 in offensive efficiency now, 8th in defensive efficiency. They're extremely good. Number 1 in field goal percentage, number 1 in field goal percentage defense. Very good around the rim. They're a very, very good team. I just don't know if Arkansas has it in them to kind of do. They're not built the way that I liked the way Memphis can play or Texas Tech can kind of push Zags around. So 9 feels big, but I still. So that would probably be my lean is, Arkansas plus 9.5, but the Zags should win this game. I don't think Arkansas has it in them.
I think Gonzaga will win this game too. I think when we talk about this again, the Texas Tech versus Gonzaga, I think, is the game. As long as Texas Tech makes it, right?
Correct, which we'll get to here in a minute.
We'll
like, that is what that matchup looks like.
Because and so I guess I'm foreshadowing that by saying if this is Gonzaga versus Duke, I think Gonzaga wins easily.
I do too, and we'll get to why that when we talk to Texas Tech. Let's move to Michigan Villanova, which is next on the board, and then we'll get Texas Tech Duke. Michigan Villanova -5.5. Villanova favorite. I have hit Villanova to a T. What did I say, folks? I said that this is a team that believes in the system, and you saw it last game. This is a team that came out in the second half. They had faith in their system. They didn't lose their heads. They knew that they were going to shoot very well from the free throw line. They got there. They went and hit some key shots. They played good defense. Like, this is a system, or this is a team that believes in the system of Villanova, and this is why I took a future bet on them at plus 2,000. This is a team that's rolling against a Michigan team that has gotten hot at the right time, playing very good basketball. But I do have concerns about a team like Villanova, who believes so strongly in their system, that is running it perfectly. The whole machine is running in unison against a Michigan team that at times has struggled defensively, can turn over the ball, and can be very hot and cold shooting the ball wise. Because do they get the 3-point shooting they got last game in this game? I don't think so. What do you feel on this one?
So the Nova take, I have to rely on you, right? Because you're a big East fan. For me, with Michigan, if you can take Hunter out of the game, right? If you can take Dickinson out of the game, then you force their guards and their wings to play above their level, right? And so you get them taking more of those crazy threes, or like a little bit more of those pick and rolls. That I think you're spot on. Michigan has been hitting those lately. If those don't fall, then Michigan could be looking at the other side being down like 7 or 8 points. But this is where I rely on you, Nate. Does Nova have a big man down low that can handle Hunter?
Yeah, I think that it's a good question. It's tough. I think that the way that Jay Wright will probably attack that, if it becomes an issue, is kind of that like loose zone play where you're getting help on the backside to help on that, and relying on Michigan to move the ball around to try to hit those kind of open shot zone defense. I do think that they can guard him up down low, but I have a feeling that's what they're going to elect to do, is kind of more that off the ball help defense down low to try to neutralize him and put it on Michigan to stay hot and knock down shots when given the opportunity. If it were my bet, I'm going Villanova in this -5.5 or -5. I should apologize, because I do believe this game is where Michigan sort of starts to unravel with a team that just doesn't make mistakes. Like, they don't really make mistakes in Villanova.
Nova is on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak. They have not lost. Michigan is on a little winning streak too. I guess Nova can also become the like Big Ten killer here, right? You can get rid of Ohio State and Michigan. I want to say this before I would be remiss to say that performance Michigan put on against Tennessee, and all rivalry aside, was stellar.
Rick Barnes, I fell into that trap once again. Every year, hook, line, or sink, that man sucks me into buying on Tennessee. Because I'm like, at some point, it's got to be right. And just an absolute, like, I was watching that game. I was like, I knew better. I knew better than to bet Tennessee. I knew better than that. I undersold Michigan, which is also my fault. But I overbought Rick Barnes, who is just, I think he's like 25 for 25 now at this point in time or something like that, like perfectly dead even.
They should, like, when Tennessee gets to the tournament, he should have to not coach. They should let somebody else coach. Honestly. Because here's the other thing, like, Michigan pulled away at the end there, right? But at one point, Tennessee was up a lot because they were, and this doesn't matter. They outmatched Michigan. Like, those players are 4 of their 5 starters are better than Michigan's starters.
Yeah.
So, right. So now also Tennessee fans, which you already know, we have a vendetta against you because for whatever reason, Tennessee fans like to hop in the mentions of Michigan State fans. It's a weird phenomenon. So now all that moaning about you should have been a 2 seed, should you have been? Because you got beat by 11 seed.
Correct.
A team that probably shouldn't have been in the tournament.
Now, once again, all credit due to Michigan for playing a great game and getting hot at the right time and knocking down shots. But yeah, I agree. Tennessee is fraud city. Another sort of fraudulent thing since we're on it, because I think it's a fair point to bring this up.
Talk about Providence.
No. We're going to talk about the Big Ten.
Okay.
We're going to stay here with the Big Ten. Because the Big Ten...
Oh, you want to talk about Wisconsin?
No. Let's just talk about the Big Ten overall, the last couple tournaments. The Big Ten has two Sweet 16 teams out of 18 bids over the last 3 years. I apologize. They have 3 teams out of 18 bids. They have, 9 teams in this tournament? Overrated. SEC, too. We're going to get to the SEC in a moment, really hard. Don't worry. We're going to get there next.
Yeah,
but I'm getting to a point. Big Ten overrated. SEC widely overrated. Big 12, best basketball conference right now in the country. I feel like is the most underrated, least talked about in the media, consistently good. Big 12 is outshining everybody. And the ACC deserves a whole lot of credit, too, which we'll also get to. So
I will say this. On this podcast, we told people not to buy in on the Big Ten. There were a lot of podcasts, because I listened to a few, even well-known, small ones and well-known ones, who were like, the Big Ten is going to do this, and I told y'all, I knew 9 teams were too many.
Way too many.
If it was a 5-team bid, and this sounds crazy because I have no way to prove this, but if there was 5 or 6 teams, I think the Big Ten would have fared better. But with 9 teams, it could have
changed the matchups.
It would have changed the matchups. And if you don't believe me, my goodness, Wisconsin just went cold in that game. They could not hit the broadside of a barn.
Nope.
And you can't tell me, play that game, my heart broke for them, because play that game a million times and Wisconsin blows Iowa State out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But it didn't matter.
On that night, didn't matter, and that's all that matters.
It did not matter. And as a state fan, to have my representatives be Purdue and Michigan, tears me apart.
Yeah. Purdue is an interesting one, which we'll talk about. But the Big Ten has failed. The SEC has failed catastrophically. Once again, which we also said.
We said that.
Nailed it on the matchups. You push them a little bit off their game, they all crack under the pressure. And we've seen that. Nate Oates, I'm so tired of hearing about Nate Oates and the great coaching job he does down at Alabama. Because what am I missing with that? That was not a good coaching job. Calipari, terrible coaching job in a year that was one of his better ones. Bruce Pearl, that game was tough.
Yeah, it was.
Miami played good, but still, Rick Barnes at Tennessee. I mean, the list goes on and on with these SEC teams constantly coming up short. I am so tired about talking about them. The Big 12 is the best basketball conference, I think, top to bottom. ACC deserves an apology from everybody who wrote them off, because they played some very good basketball in the tournament. But my opinion and my big takeaway is the Big 12 is way too underrated for the second year in a row, I think.
I can see that. That you touched on it a little bit. That Auburn-Miami game, that was another heartbreaker, though. It was just tough to watch. I cut it off, not because I'm a fan of the Tigers or I'm a fan of the Hurricanes. It was just a hard game to watch. And you could see those players trying and just not working out for them.
Yep.
My thing there is USC losing to Miami is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
We were going back and forth on that one in the group text. That was rough for USC.
Honestly, USC should have to fire their coaching staff for that.
Yeah, I don't think that's that outrageous of a take. Terrible. I mean, Jim Larinaga, once again, though, coming up when it matters come tournament time, coming up big. Once again, and this Miami team's rolling.
Oh, my. Miami should beat Iowa State. I guess we'll talk about that a little bit, but they should.
We will.
Whoa,
Let's talk Texas Tech, Duke. Unless you got something else in the Villanova-Michigan game. We got a little off topic there.
Nothing in the Villanova-Michigan game. I just want to say one more place we were right. Now, I was wrong about the team because I said it was Rutgers. But I was right that whoever came out of that Notre Dame Rutgers would beat Alabama because you touched on it.
Correct.
We told y'all
Yep.
That Alabama had no business being a 6 seed, and they were going to lose. When do we talk about like embarrassing performances? If you're a 6 seed and you lose to the 11 seed and it's 78-75 or something close, that's fine. When you lose 78-64, you shouldn't have been there.
No. I think the new motto for this podcast, at least when it comes to March Madness, is when we miss big. But when we hit, we are pinpoint dead shot accurate with our analysis on these games. Because I can go down the list on bracket games where we hit, and it was like to a T telling you exactly how it was going to play out. And then when we missed very big. Like there's been no in between right now. It's just pinpoint accurate or wildly off.
Our brackets would look better if there were more in between.
Yeah, very much so.
We sold on everything.
Yep, sold hard on everything. And I guess from a betting perspective, it works because you got to pick your shots. The motto this March is we're being lethal. Like with college football, I throw out a lot of bets, and generally we stay in a very good range. For college basketball, we're being lethal with this and picking our shots. Villanova is a shot I'm going to pick at -5. It's one of the few bets I'm committing to on the podcast today. But Villanova is my pick there. I think this is kind of where Michigan falls apart. I think they were riding high with kind of the energy of Juwan Howard coming back after the Greg Gargan incident, end of the Big Ten tournament there. Got good. You got a week of rest to kind of cool down here. You're playing a team that doesn't really turn over the ball, one of the lowest turnover teams in the country, that believes heavily in a system that is incredibly well coached. It just doesn't have a lot of flaws to their game. So I like Villanova on that side.
Yeah, let's. I like Villanova too, but let's talk Texas Tech. Dude, this is the game. Excited. To watch this.
I'm glad, dude, we're just on the same page. When I looked at this board, I was like, this is like marquee television. Set your watches to this. This is an awesome matchup. -1 is Texas Tech, or favorite, which I was a little surprised about. But when you think about it, I can make it go either way. Over under 137.5. Where do you lean on this game? Why do you like this game so much?
So I like this game so much for two reasons. One, Texas Tech is a big defense team, right? But Duke can score. So who is going to break first? Texas Tech doesn't score, a lot of points. Duke almost scores 80 points, where Texas Tech scores about 72, 71 points. Is Texas Tech defense going to be enough to keep Duke out of the paint? If you watch that Michigan State game, while Tom Izzo had a plan, that plan fell apart once their guards got going. And it took a little while for their guards to get going. So can Texas Tech keep their guards out of the paint? And if you do keep their guards out of the paint, can you handle whatever perimeter threat Duke is going to rely on? The other reason I like this matchup is because of what we talked about before. I think if Texas Tech gets over this hump of Duke, that they have a pretty good path to get to the Final Four. Yep. And I really want to see that Gonzaga Texas Tech.
I agree. This game is so awesome. If you listen to our bracket breakdown show, I have Texas Tech in the Final Four. I had them matched up against Duke here, and I have them unfortunately beating a UConn team that was way too big. Like I said, when I missed big. But this is perfect because this matchup is exactly what we talk about when we talk about tournament basketball. The kind of baseline logic is defense always travels, offense is tough to bet on. And this is exactly what you have on. You cannot script a more perfect philosophy when it comes to defense versus offense. Texas Tech, number 1 efficiency defense in the country. Number 1 in field goal percentage allowed. Number 1 in least amount of near proximity shots to the rim allowed. Number 4 in least percentage of near proximity shots hit. This team is virtually flawless. They give up the 9th least amount of shots per 100 trips from the field goal attempts per 100 trips. And then when you flip it, you look at this Duke team, who's 3rd in the nation at field goal percentage. They're 11th in near proximity field goal attempts per 100 trips. So they score extremely well. They're 9th percentage-wise in that near proximity amount, so they convert those. These teams are perfectly balanced when we talk about And Duke is fourth most efficient offense in the country, all according to Haslam metrics.
And their defense, Duke's defense is nothing to sneeze at either. They're in the top 50 for defenses too. Yeah,
nothing to sniff at. But when we're talking about elite defense versus elite offense, this is the matchup. This is for all the marbles on those kind of talking points.
You just also reminded me. So Texas Tech, we're talking about us selling out. Texas Tech sells out on defense, which can sometimes lead their opponents to going to the charity stripe a lot. And you don't want to send Duke to the line.
Correct. I don't 100% correct. Now, the thing that, and the reason I think I lean Texas Tech in this game and why I like it is Duke's defense, which has not been bad, as we said, throughout the season, but it has been bad as of late. When you look at the ACC tournament, what Virginia Tech was able to do, when you look at their kind of games in the tournament here, Michigan State game, Michigan State failed to cover. I still don't know how that was happening at the end of the game. But even Michigan State offensively was able to get at it with Duke. This is a Duke defense that in the last 5 or 6 games has not shown championship level defense, has not shown kind of elite tournament defense. And that does make me concerned if you're a Duke backer against a Texas team that is not wildly proficient offensively. We're not going to say they're like some elite offensive team, but they're good enough that at the level of Duke, if they don't get it right in this week leading up to this, it could be a long night for them if they're relying completely on their offense with how good Texas Tech's defense is. But that's because I also buy the philosophy, defense travels in the tournament. I'd rather bet on that in a game like this.
Yeah, one thing that I think is very important here that we bring up, even if Texas Tech gets down, unlike in the Michigan State game where Michigan State struggled to either string together stops or turn Duke over, Texas Tech will not have that problem. While they may go on the scoring drought, they definitely will be able to turn Duke over or string together a couple stops. So even if they get down by 6 or 8, I wouldn't worry.
Yeah, same. And this is why I think I'm leaning Texas Tech. I haven't made a pick in this game yet, but it's a beautiful matchup. This is such an awesome game. It puts all the theories to test. And yes, a small sample size of one game, but it's perfect. And I do think this is probably Coach K's last game. If we're being honest about it, I think just because I buy into the defensive philosophy, Duke has to clean up their defense. What they have done defensively the last 5-6 games is not going to win them this game. They're going to have to play better.
Yeah. And like you said, Michigan State, they didn't cover and they didn't finish their game plan out. And I think that has more to do with personnel than coaching, although I saw on Twitter coaching, but I was like, no, I think the game plan was there. Michigan State players just didn't execute. But Michigan State gave you a blueprint for this. If you can, one, keep their guards out of the paint, which we already talked about.
Texas Tech does a great job, though, with that.
But Texas Tech does a great job. And if you can spread Duke out, spread them out, and force them to take those long threes.
I agree. I'm 100% in lockstep here with you.
Also, this is what I don't know. Maybe you don't know. I don't know what Texas Tech looks like in transition, because that is also a big thing against Duke, but you may not need it. Again, if your defense is elite, you may not need the transition.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll need it, but it's a good. Yeah, I don't have a good one on that one. We'll see. It's a good point to look out for. Let's talk about Houston, Arizona. Another pretty solid game. The spread is 1.5. Arizona's a favorite. Over under is 45.5. Houston has dudes. That is the biggest takeaway I've taken from their first 2 games. This is a physical, aggressive team that just has dudes playing basketball everywhere. Like, they just have those guys that say, F it. If you're beating us, it's going to hurt. And then you have an Arizona team that has been arguably the hottest team coming into the tournament and staying hot in the tournament. I don't think that's a very controversial statement.
They're living up to their hype, right?
I 100% agree with that. I did not buy as heavily into the hype. I did have them advancing into the Elite 8, but I thought they were a little overrated, but they have played extremely good basketball. Houston, a team that 11th top efficiency offense, 10th top efficiency defense, going against an Arizona team that's hot. What do you make of this game? What do you like here?
So I don't want this to happen because I have Arizona in the championship in my bracket, but Houston has nothing to lose. And as a person who team has been to the Final Four a few times, you never want to play teams that have nothing to lose.
I agree with
And
that.
like you said, they have guys, and even if they are losing, it's not going to feel like they're losing. And this is one of those games that my dad always tells me to watch out for, because even if Arizona wins this game, right, if Houston took everything out of them to win this game, you know, is it worth it for Arizona? Because then you go out in the next game and get blasted by either Nova or Michigan, right?
Yeah. I think I like Arizona.
I don't have any I don't have any like stats or anything on this. This is just a gut feeling. Like, I think Arizona may not be ready for Houston. This doesn't mean that Houston will win, but I will not be surprised if they do win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not surprised. I have wholeheartedly underestimated Houston, and I'm not doing that any longer because I am just so impressed with the way they played those first two games in the tournament. It was an insanely good coaching job. It was an insanely good effort job. It was a physical team. It was a good basketball team. Completely undervalued them. Arizona, I undervalued a little bit here, I think. I thought they were a little bit overrated, but they have been extremely good and efficient. This is a game I don't like making a pick in it from a betting standpoint because it's like a ping pong ball going around in my head on this one. If you put a gun to my head, I think I'm going with probably the better team, which would be Arizona. But yeah. Houston, once again, and you're 100% right, has nothing. They're playing with house money at this point. They have a fuck it mentality. They're ready to go.
Two of their key players are hurt. Right? They're playing. Yeah. So Houston has literally nothing to lose. And don't forget, this was a team that not too long ago was in the Final Four, right?
Oh God, my brain's gonna do them.
Yeah, don't quote me on
that one.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
I think so.
Correct.
I think that's correct.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
It sounds vaguely familiar. I kind of remember that, but
I think the other thing too is like Houston and Gonzaga, right, are your only teams left in the tournament that are very efficient on both offense and defense. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's Ken Palm too. With that said, I think this is a game where we may see like a bunch of points scored.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Like you said, both teams are. Houston is very efficient in defense and offense, but yeah, there could be a lot. The over could probably be the bet here if you had to make a bet. But
if you had to make this is one of those games I'm gonna stay away. I have no.
Correct. I'm not making a bet or a pick here. You said gun to my head. I would, like I said, I'd go with the better team because they play the game 100 times. Arizona's the better team, but it's tough. I would stay away from it.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. Tell me why the Friars will beat the Jayhawks.
First, I would like the apologies from the entire sports media and gambling community to start at my door, and I can just get a parade of apologies in. I have told you all, everybody, I've been perfectly right, making money with Providence, that this buying into their luck factor was a terrible idea. And now people are going they're playing with borrowed time, house money, yada, yada, yada. They're in the Sweet 16, folks. They're Big East regular season champions. That narrative is dead. You were wrong. Just admit it. I can admit when I'm wrong. You all need to admit when you're wrong. This team knows how to play good basketball. Ed Cooley is doing a phenomenal job coaching, and they are a team similar to Villanova where they have trust in the system they're running. They have trust in one another. They do not get down on themselves. They know that no matter how grim things look, that they always have a fighter's chance because they got a guy in Bynum who can hit big time shots. They've got a point guard who is incredibly efficient in running that offense. They have guys down low that are giving them good production defensively and offensively. The problem is they're running in to a very good, slightly under talked about Kansas team. But I guess this would be my question back, because I do like Providence plus 7.5. But I guess my question back is this not the perfect Bill Self fail game in March? Is this not the perfect pothole for a team that should make a Final Four going up against a team that everybody has written off forever? This is the perfect Bill Self brains a puddle type of game. Is it not?
Yeah. we're sharing the same brain. As much as we gushed over Texas Tech, right? As much as we did,
Yep.
Kansas thrashed Texas Tech.
Correct. And they're top 6 efficiency offense, top 13 efficiency defense, got a lot of good advanced metrics, has played fantastic well, under talked about, I think, or underappreciated.
And that's what, so my problem with Providence, and we'll talk about the bet, my problem with Providence is not being consistent from 3. And I don't think you can beat Kansas without having solid 3-point shooting. You're going to need because Kansas is going to score. They're very efficient in scoring. And Kansas is one of those teams, Bill Self will trade baskets with you all night.
It's very true that he will have absolutely no problem doing that. But if you've watched Providence basketball at all this year, and you've seen games where the Friars need a bucket, or they're trading baskets and there are big-time shot opportunities here, Jared Bynum has almost virtually always stepped up. He is a player that gets you a bucket when you need it. He's a player that breaks momentum. He is a player that has always played above the moment. Jared Bynum, for anybody who's watched Providence basketball, knows exactly what I'm talking about. And this is where you and they could get absolutely blown out in this game and thrashed. I'm not saying that isn't impossible because there are some streakiness, but this is the perfect example of why you can't just look at all the metrics. You have to also watch the game and kind of use a mixture of both, because the Xavier game, perfect example, because I watched that so intently. That man could not miss anything. He just kept unloading on this team. He's hitting about 50% from 3 away, and from home, I think I forget what it is, but he's shooting 75% from the field, 41% from 3, but it's like anytime they need a moment, anytime there's a moment that they need a bucket or they need a big shot, I swear the kid always delivers.
Yeah. I think this game is going to be close. Kansas, not really great against the spread this year.
Yeah.
I think this game is going to be close on one thing and one thing only. Providence is a big team and matches up well with Kansas size-wise. I think the scoring, like I alluded to earlier, is going to be the issue for them. If this is like a 4-point, 5-point game, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I'm going into this saying, Nate, that I'm not thinking that Providence has a chance to win, but I do think Providence has a chance to keep this game close.
I agree with that. I don't necessarily think they're going to win, and I wouldn't even be overly shocked if Kansas comes in here and absolutely just bludgeons them to death potentially, which isn't great, but like I'm going to keep riding with this Providence team. They've made me a lot of money. They keep showing the world up, and you are right. Down low, they are good and physical. Nate Watson is not getting pushed around. He plays perfectly for what they're going to need down low. 6'10", 260. He's not going to get bullied down low. He gives you really good minutes down low. And this is a team that, like I said, when you watch the games, I get a different impression than the media narrative of like this team is because they're number one in luck metric. Throw it out the window. It's not even part of my like. It's not even lexicon. Correct. Yeah, and people have been betting against them and losing money hand over fist, and it's dumb. I like them to keep 7.5. Is it a risky play? Yes. I'm going to see what the market does. Like, I'm not committing to it right now because I want to see if we get more points on this. If we get less, it's going to depend on where I'm at. So make sure you're following at Trophy Kids Pod on Twitter and Instagram for the picks. But yeah, this Providence team, we've been saying it. People are until I'm blue in the face. This is a damn good basketball team, and they have. I asked the question a couple weeks ago. What level do they have to have success-wise to kind of get rid of all the doubt? And I don't think that's going to happen because we're seeing it on Twitter now. Like they're playing with house money. This is it. People are going to come out after this game and be like, I told you." I'm saying no. That's what people said with San Diego State. That's what they said in their second game. They played great basketball. They're in the Sweet 16. They're regular season Big East champions. This is a damn good basketball team.
Even get me started on the San Diego State losing.
Or not San Diego, South Dakota State. Sorry. to Providence game.
No, I knew they would blow South Dakota. Who had them losing against South Dakota State?
So many people were like, South Dakota State could give this team a game, the way they run and their offense, and it was like, no.
I did think we talked about it in the text. I did think Richmond was going to keep that. I thought Providence would win, but I thought Richmond was going to keep that game way closer.
Yeah, that's fair. Go ahead.
We got to talk about Purdue and St. Peter's. We have to.
We do.
Whatever we say on this podcast, I want to put this disclaimer out. Whatever we say, the exact opposite is going to happen in that game.
We do. All right, let's talk about it here.
Let's talk. I'm gonna be real quick. So Purdue's a team I've watched all year, right? So here, Purdue turns the ball over a lot, and we saw St. Peter's capitalize on that on both Kentucky and Murray State. Here's why, just gut check, why this game should be a blowout. I don't think St. Peter's has anyone on their team that is as big as Purdue's front court.
I haven't looked at the height, but yeah, just going off eye test, I agree.
Yeah.
This is one of those things. We've seen it in the tournament before. George Mason or Roberts, various teams. The Purdue team, we talked about their ability to potentially get outcoached. That is very likely here.
Yes.
We have talked about their ability to turn over the ball in key spots or being very streaky. I don't see how St. Peter's wins this game on paper, but the game isn't played on paper. So I'm not incredibly – it's 12.5 point spread. Am I betting this game? No. Am I going into this game expecting St. Peter's to once again pull off another miracle? No. Am I going to be overly shocked if the Purdue Boilermakers, for a lack of a better word, pee down their leg and mess this game up? No, I'm not going to be entirely shocked, but they should murder this team.
So the other thing about St. Peter's, right, is they love to turn teams over, but they get a lot of reach-in fouls or a lot of like ticky-tack fouls. And Kentucky could not hit free throws for whatever reason. I don't know why, but Purdue is a good free throw shooting team.
Well, this is what we saw with Texas and Purdue. And people, which I get the officiating show, and I mean, you can blindly throw a dart.
We do a whole podcast just on how bad the officiating has been.
And it's been that way for years. This is not a new phenomenon, to say the least. But the Texas-Purdue game got a lot of heat because of the insane lopsidedness of field goals. But if you looked at that game before that game, Texas is a very aggressive team, gets a lot of fouls. Purdue draws a ton of fouls throughout the season, and then they hit their free throws. That is the similar dynamic in this game because you hit it perfectly. This is a team that is aggressive in St. Peter's. Why not? They've got nothing to lose. They do get a lot of reaching fouls. But this is a team that is incredibly lethal from the free throw, and they're going to get there a lot. And I think we're probably going to see a very similar dynamic. Maybe not. Maybe we'll see the NCAA, which would be bad. They might overcompensate for how much heat they've been getting, but I doubt it.
But yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like when you watch that game, like Murray State just fell apart.
Yeah.
Right. And because Kentucky had chances to put the game away, they just didn't hit their free throws. Right. Murray State, I don't know what happened to Murray State. They just kind of fell apart. I don't think, and this is not even me giving a lot of credit to Painter, but I can't see a Murray State collapse. This doesn't mean that St. Peter's can't win without Purdue collapsing, but I don't think that coaching will happen. I think if anything, what will happen in this game for St. Peter's to win, because we've seen them, they pull everyone off that bench, is a game of attrition with Purdue.
Yep.
And if you can turn, again, like you said, Purdue turns the ball over in key spots, not just turn the ball, because there are a lot of turnover happy teams here, but Purdue will turn the ball over when they need to actually score to keep the game close.
Correct. I agree. I 100% agree with that. 2 games left. We can talk about them quickly here. UNC, UCLA. UNC Beautiful mastery job on Baylor. Facing a UCLA team, Mick Cronin, I didn't like the guy who's at UC, but I got to give him his dues. This man can coach basketball.
He is coaching, okay?
He can coach basketball. This is elite level coaching. Does that coaching beat what we have seen from this North Carolina offense and what they've been able to do here since that Duke home game to wrap up the end of the ACC season?
Yes, I think this is a game. North Carolina has the talent. North Carolina has the scoring. North Carolina has the offense, like you just said. This is a game, coach versus coach, and I'm taking Mick every time on this. I think look, we told y'all that UCLA not only was going to beat St. Mary's, but beat them handily. We told you.
I put money on it. I put the bet out there on Twitter. I put my own hard-earned cash on it. I put my reputation on it. We did. 100% read that game. Once again, precision when we hit.
Yeah. I knew that UCLA was going to do that. And look, UCLA had more problems with a small Akron team than they did with St. Mary's.
Yeah.
I think this team, I don't know what the spread is on this.
It's 2.5. UCLA is the favorite.
I just think when it comes down to the X's and O's, I got to go UCLA.
Yeah, I don't disagree. This is also a team, UCLA, that is incredibly good at eliminating second chance opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
They are fifth in least amount of second chance opportunities, according to Haslametrics, and they are first in percentage allowed off that 100 trips or whatever. This is a team that limits those second shot opportunities, which is a very good thing to have in a game like this when you are facing a team that is superior from an athletic and offensive standpoint, I think, to you, and has the ability to really kind of pour it on teams if they're hitting on all cylinders. I'm with you. I think it comes simply down to I am betting in Mick Cronin with this amount of time to draw up a game plan against UNC that will push UCLA through. That's my read on it.
Yeah. Another thing, too, both these teams are this way. Both UCLA and North Carolina cannot have mediocre games in order to win. They will lose, which will be interesting if they both have mediocre games playing against each other. To see, that's when coaching will come into. Yeah. Because
an under could be
UCLA,
a real play here too.
Yeah. If UCLA isn't firing on all cylinders, then they kind of fall apart. But the same is true for North Carolina. More so for North Carolina.
I agree with
that. I don't think North Carolina is going to be able to turn UCLA over as much as they did Baylor. My God, Baylor cannot hold on to the ball.
Terrible. God awful, atrocious basketball. It was embarrassing to watch.
Yeah. If UCLA can get over the 50% mark in offense, this game is over. I don't think North Carolina will let that happen because I don't think they've let many teams get over 50%. But if that happens, if at any point in the game that happens, I think it's over. And the other thing, right? And this is why I love marquee matchups. UCLA, North Carolina, neither one of those schools are afraid of the team on the jersey.
No, God, no.
So,
absolutely not. I agree with all those points. Last game I got here for you. Iowa State, Miami. The line is 2.5. Miami is the favorite. Over-under set at 133. Larinaga and Miami have got a storm rolling at the perfect time.
Yeah.
And Iowa State, a team that has really high highs, I think, but also has some really low lows, and they generally play more, if you drew a line between those, below the median of good, I think, in my opinion. But this is a team that we've seen at times can be really, really good. Where are you on this game? How do you make this one?
Neither one of these teams should be here is where I'm at.
Miami got hot at the right time. And Jim Larinaga, beautiful job once again.
Miami did get hot at the right time, and that's true. But this should be Johnny Davis in Wisconsin here, and Wisconsin just again, fellow. I mean, I've said it a million times, but a heartbreaking performance, really.
Yeah.
For that. Where am I leaning on this game? This is one of those games like I probably won't even watch this game. Like I'm not interested in it. I'm just being honest. Like people, I joke the Gonzaga versus Arizona for the championship. That's not a joke. I'm really not interested in that game either. So, but I think shooting percentage is going to be a huge problem for Iowa State.
Oh yeah. Like this is a team plays very good defense and at times can show good offense. But when I look at the entire sample size of the season, oh man, is it nauseating to look at their advanced stats from an offensive standpoint. It is brutal. And that is why I do think I lean Miami. I take a coach who's a veteran, an elite coach at times in March. I take the team that is hot here, a team that offensively over the course of the season has played well. I mean, they're fifth in field goal percentage. They knock down their shots. That's a team I lean with here on a 2.5 point spread because Iowa State is not nearly consistent enough. If they were more consistent, yeah, maybe I take Iowa State. Neither one of these teams are wildly consistent.
No,
but Miami's been better, I think.
Iowa State will win this game if defense is scored.
That is true. Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't think that's going to necessarily happen here.
Yeah, to hold Johnny Davis to 17 points is not a small feat.
No, it's great defense. Don't get me wrong. It's just that offense ability is really slacking, and there's not a consistency to it. If there was a consistency to it, yeah, sure, maybe. You're outside of the first weekend. There's a lot of emotions in that first weekend of the tournament. There's a lot of things. Once we get into this kind of, the cream sort of rises to the top. Not that any of these teams are necessarily the cream of the crop, but I think the Miami Hurricanes are the better team, and I think that's generally what you're going to see in these matchups here.
Yeah, and for that next round of matchups, like whoever they play, like it doesn't matter which, in my opinion, and again, I've been wrong a lot on this podcast, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter who they play, Kansas or Providence, they are going to blow out either Iowa State or Miami.
I agree. I 100% agree with that.
So, but yeah, there's some good basketball this weekend for sure. Don't let Nate tell you to take Virginia Tech. He won't even talk about Virginia Tech. You see, we didn't talk about it.
Man, was that a miss on my part. I was sitting there pretty early in that game and just had that oh shit moment. Like, oh, what have I done? What have I done here for this one? But yeah, no, that was a bad miss. I mean, 8-3 isn't bad from a betting standpoint, giving out picks. It's pretty good. I'll take that every day and twice on Sunday for opening week of college basketball. We picked our shots there. We nailed a couple. That was a bad read. Thank God it didn't do Illinois because that would have been a bad read too, but I was high on that Illinois team. Tennessee was a terrible read. And I'll die with UAB in that pick I gave out because
those 5-12 matchups, because the ones we didn't call are obviously the ones that happen. That New Mexico, like you want to talk about the Big Ten. I have a huge bone to pick with UConn.
Oh, UConn did me so dirty. So dirty. But I also said that. I said this team is either going to blow up in the first round, like absolutely trip over themselves, or they're going to march all the way to like the Elite Eight. There's no in between with that team. So in some ways I was right, but in a lot of ways completely wrong.
I fully believe if that was UConn versus Arkansas, UConn would have won that game.
Yeah.
Fully believe. Because that's what I put in my bracket.
Correct. I also believe they would have beat them. And then I believe they would have beaten the Zags because they're very physical down low. But once again, they were complete hit or miss, 100%. There was no they were our podcast. There was no in between with that UConn team, which I did say.
Michigan State beat UConn earlier in the year, and it seemed like at times in that New Mexico State game that UConn just kind of forgot that they needed to play defense.
Yeah. Oh, they have complete blunders where you leave yourself head scratching, which I believe I said on the podcast. Like, what are they doing out there? Like, I honestly don't know. Like, Hurley just like has an aneurysm for like 20 minutes in the game, and then he comes back to life, and like, oh, now you're coaching again, and the team's playing coherent basketball, but you don't get those 20 minutes back.
Yeah, you don't. And then they couldn't even pull back in. Well, we're spending way too much time on the
infuriating loss.
The misgivings of
the
UConn. That was one I was very upset about. That one. I couldn't even be mad at St. Peter's beating my national champion because Kentucky had
just so ridiculous.
Kentucky had no business losing that game. Indiana getting embarrassed by St. Mary's. I think you should. The people who picked that upset, I couldn't believe how many people picked that upset. That's not. Yeah. Mine will be Creighton versus San Diego State, where I was chewing on my fingernails.
Nailed. I told people Creighton was going to win that. I also told TCU that was the easiest game of my entire life. TCU bet was I didn't even have to watch that Seton Hall TCU game. I knew immediately.
I should have listened to you. We talked about it. I should have listened to you.
I should have taken a loan out on that one. I was 100% dead set. No shot was Seton Hall winning that game. Not a shot.
They got embarrassed.
Yeah. It was like the writing was all over the wall. And this is like one of those things where, like, because I watched the Big East so much, I just know this going in. Like, the fact that they were even an 8 seed was ridiculous. That team was barely getting across the finish line.
Also, don't get so high and mighty on the Creighton San Diego State. It was 72-69.
I agree. Oh, it wasn't like the best call.
Yeah.
I just had Creighton. I just said Creighton was going to win that game. I agree. That could have gone a multitude of ways, but I'm just saying I had it. I was very wrong on Iowa, as everybody was.
No, and we don't have Tim here, but Tim made a good point. We all knew, all three of us knew that McCaffrey had not made it out the first weekend ever.
Yeah.
And how dare we? How dare we get on this podcast and say, "Oh yeah, Iowa should win that game"?
Yep, I agree. I mean, at least I didn't have them in the Final Four like some other people did. And like, there were people I've seen all over social media that had Iowa very, very far.
Have they ever watched Iowa play? Remember when Iowa was the #1 team in the country and they got bounced on the second weekend?
Dude, there's a group. I don't know who they are. They're like work for the overtime or something. It's like 3 dudes who sit around like what I can only describe as like a table you see in like an elementary classroom, and there's like 2 of them who had Iowa all the way through to the final. I think one had them winning the national championship, and my brain almost exploded when I came across.
No, Fran can't coach that much.
No.
Fran has been running the same game plan forever. You get a big body in the middle, and then make sure he can pass to wings that can shoot. Yep. It is a very easy thing to stop. Now, one thing that Iowa had this year that I don't think they had in years past is that they were fast. But being fast doesn't really matter if you can't score.
Dude, Iowa is like the Kroger brand Coca-Cola to Purdue being Coke. Like, they want to be Coke so bad, and that's what they basically base it off of. And it's fine. Sometimes you drink it when you need it. It tastes fine. It's good. But at the end of the day, when you're really wanting to quench your thirst, the Coke comes through, and it doesn't even come through that much. But that's what they want to do. They're trying to be a Purdue, and they're an off-brand Purdue, and they just they fail every time. And we knew that, and we still put them.
Yes,
we knew it.
We did that. Fran McCaffrey probably he's above 500, so I guess can't really say that he should be fired, but he needs new assistants.
Yeah, he needs some better guys to coach up below him for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap this up? Crazy game. Never buying into the Rick Burns hype again. Ever. I tell myself that now, and then next year, this week, again, I'll be on here being like, I bought in again. I'm a sucker.
The last thing I want to leave with is there were a few people in my mentions who were like, you made us pick Davidson over Michigan State. I want y'all to go back and watch that game. Okay? That game could have went either way. It could have been an upset very quickly. So I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
I was glad Michigan State won, but if you tell me to pick that game 100 times, I'm not picking Michigan State.
I agree. Yeah, probably the same way that I had Davidson as well, which I'm sorry. Once again, for the most part, when we miss big, we miss big. But on that game,
but I'm not even calling that.
I would say, for that one, that's the one that I would say, no, I'm not owning that one. We were wrong. I own that 100%. I apologize for that. But No, that game could have gone our way pretty easily.
Yeah, that's not a miss. I'm not gonna call that one a miss.
All right,
So
that works. Make sure you're following at Trophy Kids Pod on Twitter and Instagram for more bets this week. Hopefully, we can keep it rolling. I think we did a great job with those breakdowns. And as always, peace.
Peace.
Oh.